Oh, come on now. It's no secret that I am Bucks County proud, so that I'm always thrilled to talk about Parks Casino. It really is the number one casino in all of Pennsylvania, and it happens to be in Bucks County. They've got it all. World-class headliners at the Excite Center, the open-air Liberty Bell Beer Garden, the Parks Grill House, Bamboo Noodle House, just a few of the outstanding restaurants. They've got action. They've got excitement, live entertainment, TC. It's a destination.
I mean, it is everything all in one place.
All sins under one roof.
Exactly.
It's a destination. It is Parks Casino. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Wow, the voting. The voting is just amazing. Yesterday, I asked this question: should Elon Musk restore Donald Trump's Twitter account? We had 12,329 votes cast. The no votes, 74.29%. You know, what I really don't understand, I am about to interview Alan Shipnick about Phil Mickelson. I'm about to interview the guy who has written the
book, Phil.
Yeah.
Reaching for the book.
The rip-roaring biography of golf's most colorful superstar.
Right.
That's the book. So I just finished it, which is why it's on my mind. And there comes a discussion late in the book where Shipnick explains that Phil Mickelson is one of the most hated athletes on the planet. What? I don't get that. And similarly, I don't understand the hostility against Elon Musk. This guy we are so lucky to have Elon Musk in our midst.
Love him.
I love what he represents in terms of innovation and change and American entrepreneurism. And it's just so many things, so many virtuous things, I think, that are great about our country. But the audience, I mean, the audience is not in step with me when it comes to this.
No, they are not.
Today's survey question will require some explanation and a story. Are staffing shortages in the hospitality industry temporary or permanent? Are we now going to live forever with staff shortages, whatever the cause of them may be? A hangover from COVID, a situation that's immigration driven, the fact that Americans just don't want to do those jobs, whatever those jobs might be anymore. I don't know much. I have the headline from the Wall Street Journal today. I don't know much about the causes of inflation. I mean, commonsensically, I get it. There are supply chain issues that are residual from the pandemic. Consequently, a lot of products didn't get out. Now there's this pent-up demand. Consequently, for the products that there are, there's a huge price because people can charge whatever they want to charge for a whole host of things. I think that's what's going on. I know that inflation edged down to an 8.3% annual rate in April, but remained close to the fastest pace in 4 decades. In reading in, I also saw this. Prices rose for groceries as well as dining out. I want to come back to that. Airline travel and other services that consumers are turning to as they shift from spending heavily on goods from earlier in the pandemic. Thank God we have a summer vacation that I've had long planned. Thank God we had our airline reservations purchased last Thanksgiving, because I heard today and I'm reading that it's like a 35 or so % gain.
Wow.
In some airline reservation. They're taking advantage.
Because everyone's just dying to get out. And now look at this.
Right. But TC, that's not the part of the economy that I feel comfortable explaining and discussing.
Okay.
This is. My favorite story today at Smerconish.com is from CNBC. The headline says, McDonald's franchisees are worried the company's new grading system will alienate workers. Short version of the story is that McDonald's wants to introduce a new system of evaluating their franchisees. And the franchisees are saying, no, you're not coming in here and evaluating what goes on in my store, because in the words of one of them, franchisees, quote, my workforce is fragile. And if there were ever a means of showing the difference between, back in the day and today, for me, it's this story. Let me read and then I'll explain why. McDonald's franchise owners are expressing concern and frustration over new grading system of the fast food giant planning to roll out early next year, with some saying it's poor timing due to unprecedented pressures in the workforce. What is this new grading program? The company plans to enact a system called Operation PACE, which stands for Performance and Customer Excellence. They note that the business climate is changing. They have a 60-page overview of how it's going to work. They say they need a new approach that supports achieving our growth objectives. Some franchisees are worried that the new process will instead harm operations and alienate workers because the program calls for between 6 and 10 visits a year from company and third-party assessors per location, layered on top of other inspections for things such as local food safety regulations. Says one of the franchisees, quote, "It just kills morale. And with the current hiring environment being as tough as it is, I can't afford to lose any more people." So the franchisees don't want McDonald's coming in and evaluating their workforce because they say our workforce is too fragile. I know that you swept up blood and guts for one of your summer jobs, right? What did you do?
Yeah, I cleaned up in an emergency room.
You cleaned up in an emergency room.
Yeah, that was my job.
Like,
for
here's
summer.
a finger and a toe.
Okay, well,
and I'm
not-
just going to push it right into the.
Not exactly, but I was mopping. I was prepping rooms and then I was turning rooms over.
I mean, what did you see? What kind of
Everything.
atrocities?
Yeah. But you could, I'm not sitting in on operations at that point, but I was
People come
pre-med.
in, they're bleeding and they got, bad things happening. I don't know.
Right.
And then
it would not have been a job for you, Michael.
And you had to swab down like the sink and the bed.
All kinds of body fluids.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that happened.
All right. Well, while you were sweeping up blood and guts, I was working at McDonald's.
You were picking up the French fries.
And the thing at McDonald's, I was the maintenance man at McDonald's because the maintenance man didn't have to wear a uniform, and I didn't want the indignity of wearing the uniform. Picking up trash was like not a bad thing. I don't want to swab the blood, but I'll scoop the trash and
that's fine.
Empty the cans and so on and so forth. And by the way, I did have to scrub the bathrooms and so forth.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, you go.
Yeah. I was the maintenance man.
Well, what are you talking about then? You're fine.
And by the way, I also liked some things never change. I liked the early Saturday and early Sunday morning shift. I went from doing the early Saturday and Sunday morning shift at McDonald's to doing the early Saturday and Sunday shift at WWDB.
Exactly.
So, anyway, one day, TC, we get a phone call. And I remember the manager on duty at the time was Herman. He was this like really fit African-American guy. And Herman gets the call.
Oh boy.
The call had come
phone
from the Lansdale store, which means nothing to you, but Lansdale store was probably 10 miles as the crow flies from our store.
The next town over.
Right. A couple of towns over. And the message Herman receives from the manager of the Lansdale store is, honest to God, I could not make this up. The Mac bus has just left us and it's coming your way.
Did someone warn Lansdale before Lansdale got? I mean, like, what is the deal? Is
right.
it like a whisper down the lane? Right.
It's like a snow chain. Right. There's no school today.
Please, dear Lord, tell me someone warned Lansdale.
Like, panic goes through the store.
Wait, what? Okay, this is really interesting to me because what needed to be changed? This reminds me of when they were observing in the Montessori school. What needed to be changed?
I don't know. Like for me, move your ass and pick up the trash and empty all the cans and swab the deck and get.
But you do that all the time.
I know, but it's like suddenly company is coming to your house.
Okay, all right, fine.
And this bus.
When you say bus, like a legit
bus. This bus pulled up. It was a traveling bus
full of people.
Not like full of people, like 50 people, but full of people, like a dozen people.
Wow.
And they get off the bus and they go stand in line and they have clipboards and stopwatches and they are recording everything that is taking place. Like
so
how many minutes,
order different things and then see how long it takes you to. Oh,
all different things.
That's really smart.
Like somebody's in line and somebody else is looking at the bathroom to see how I've cleaned up.
Wait, there are some places that I would like them to come in our area.
But this is circa 1978.
The Mac bus.
77, 78. So like we rolled with it. Okay, we rolled with it. We got ready and we were clean in the time that it took them to go from Lansdale to Doylestown. We were ready for the Mac bus.
That's
We were,
hysterical.
ready to go. But I just find it amazing that I'm reading a story now, a big story in CNBC. It's a long story. Go read it at Smerconish.com. And these franchisees today, they say, do not send the equivalent of the Mac bus because my workforce is fragile.
I have so many questions about this. In other words, like, what has this been something that's been done in the last 10 years? Is this something new? Do they have a system by which the franchisees can monitor themselves?
Well, how about this quote? How about this quote from a franchisee?
Tell me.
Pace will have, that's the name of the program, will have, quote, strangers with little to no restaurant experience coming in and evaluating and interacting with my staff. To which I would say, well, that's the general public.
Interesting.
I mean, what, you don't want the general public evaluating you either? Go look at Yelp.
Yeah.
So anyway, love that story. Love that story.
Well, I'm glad you came out on top that so many years ago.
And by the way, when they left Doylestown.
Who'd you call?
And right. We called Quakertown. We said, look out, Quakertown. The Mac bus is coming. I was on CNN this morning talking about the Pennsylvania primary. Now the eyes of the nation are tuned in. I've said, TC, come on, for 6 months, I've said, you got to pay attention to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but you had no idea that it was going to get to this. I mean,
no,
it's now...
I mean, it was exciting before
Exactly.
this.
Exactly.
But what is this? This is the emergence. I said to Brianna Keeler and John Berman this morning, anybody who tells you that they know what's about to happen in Pennsylvania is lying. And the reason the whole nation should be paying attention to Pennsylvania is that we have, a Senate nomination battle and a gubernatorial nomination battle. It's the Senate race that could determine the balance of power for the entire United States Senate because Pat Toomey is retiring. And there's uncertainty as to what will happen on the Democratic side of the aisle and the Republican side of the aisle. But the action now is on the Republican side of the aisle because Dr. Oz and Dave McCormick, and trust me, I'm looking at 3 television sets, and they're the cable stations. Anytime they have a so-called local avail, it's all McCormick and Oz. Together, they've spent a combined $50 million. Kathy Barnett, up until a week ago, had spent $137,000, and she's running neck and neck with them. She and Doug Mastriano, who's running for governor, are kind of tag team partners now. They are both what Joe Biden would describe as ultra MAGA. They can each win the primary. I don't think either can win a general election. And somebody who agrees with me, at least regarding Mastriano, is Josh Shapiro. He's the Democratic gubernatorial nominee. He has no opposition. He's running a commercial that is intended to help Mastriano win the nomination because he thinks he can beat him. And now the Club for Growth, I said that Kathy Barnett had spent $137,000 on her own behalf. Now the Club for Growth has thrown in $1 million on her behalf for the final couple of days. That changes all of the dynamics. And, now you've got something interesting happen, which is McCormick and Oz are now focusing attention on Barnett. I don't know if there's enough time on the clock for them to bring her down a few pegs. And something I said on radio yesterday, and I will continue to say, is that this is an example of what I'm talking about when I say, when you read a story that says there's a layoff in your local newspaper newsroom, this is why it should worry you. Because there has been no vetting of Barnett. And Selena Zito talks about exactly that. Selena Zito writes a piece for the Washington Examiner, and it's posted at Smerconish.com. She says, here are 8 or 9 very basic questions, like, what's your hometown? And where did you go to school? That she couldn't get the Barnett campaign to answer. So there's that. And of course, the gubernatorial race has abortion ramifications, implications, where Roe versus Wade is expected to be overturned next month. I got to tell you, something that's posted at Smerconish.com today that must have gotten past me yesterday, but is a must read. Politico, Josh Gerstein and Alexander Ward, they're the ones who broke the story about the Alito draft opinion. Now, with Ryan Lizza joining their fold, a story at Politico saying, hey, guess what? That draft Alito opinion, I'm doing this from memory, but I think it was dated February 10, and I and others, John Yoo was in my studio last week and discussing the process because he'd been a clerk for Clarence Thomas. Hey, this is the first of many drafts. No. According to the Politico story by Misters Gerstein, Ward, and Lizza, there has only been one circulated draft opinion, and everyone has held their position. Yesterday, I mean, this story was posted yesterday morning, and I'm sorry I didn't put it in Smerconish.com yesterday, but I am today. And of course, yesterday was the vote where the attempt to so-called codify Roe versus Wade failed. 51 senators opposed, 49 were in support. Joe Manchin incurring the wrath of a lot on the left, again. Relative to Ukraine, I don't want to overlook this. Finland now says we want in. Finland President and Prime Minister announced their support for joining NATO. What is it, an 800-mile border that they share with Russia? Imagine how that's going to sit or not sit with Vladimir Putin, because he's been so concerned about sharing a border with Ukraine and Ukraine wanting to join NATO. Something else that I talked about on CNN last Saturday. You remember, TC, I had the whole segment with Ambassador Volker talking, as I'd already talked with Admiral Stavridis previously, like, what are the rules for how far we can go? We're not going to give MiG fighters, but we are going to give intel that allows you to kill a general. So there's a Washington Post story today posted at Smerconish.com that says, here are two areas, here are two lines we're not going to cross. First, the United States cannot provide detailed information that would help Ukraine kill Russian leadership figures, such as the most senior military officers or ministers. But then again, what about the report from NBC and the Times that said we've provided data that helped kill 12 generals? Like, where's the line between a general and somebody closer to Putin who's still in Moscow? The second category of prohibited intelligence sharing is any information that would help Ukraine attack Russian targets outside Ukraine's borders. So we're not going to give you the coordinates so that you can go take out a nuclear facility in Moscow, I guess. What else did I want to make sure I mentioned? There's so many good stories. I hope you're registered for the daily newsletter. Death information. Great story about how, this is from ABC, I think, about how the U.S. is nearing 1 million COVID deaths. How does that seem so normal? ABC asks. And then there's this. The nation's drug overdose epidemic worsened in 2021 as deaths surpassed 100,000 in the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the CDC. On the subject of COVID, did you see have you heard, I should have asked you to pull the Patti LuPone. Patti LuPone is like this grand dame of Broadway. Do you know this story?
I do know this story. So this was like
she's 73 years old.
73 years old. And this was at a Q&A for the stars and the audience after a show. So
called Company.
She was up on stage and had evidently asked several times for people in the audience to wear their masks correctly. Part of the
right, not
rule.
Just wear it,
right?
Wear it correctly.
Right. Well, because you'll hear her tell them to cover your nose, and when they did not comply, then it became like this.
Protect me so that I can perform. I deal with people like you all the time. And you sit there right next to her. Push your mask over your nose. That's why you're in the theater. That is the rule. If you don't want to follow the rule, get the fuck out!
Woo! Get out!
And then somebody, get out!
Oh no, they're all cheering for her. They're like, Patti, you're
Patti, we love you, Patti.
Hey, it's the rule. I mean, you've talked about this before. Like it or not, if you say you're going to do something, if you're in a situation where you say, all right, here I am in the theater and this is what the theater requires, that's the rule.
You're lucky I'm out of time because Julia Garner is Ruth Langmore in Ozark.
We're not going there. I know what you're about to say.
I just want to say this.
Spoiler alert.
I linked today at Smerconish.com to Good Housekeeping. I don't think I've ever linked to Good Housekeeping before.
Hey, you do it all.
But Good Housekeeping has a great story interview with Julia Garner,
I love her.
who is Ruth Langmore. I'll only say this. They wanted to ask her, how does she feel about the Ozark ending? That's all I'll say.
Good.
That is all I'll say.
Fine, because you
Vote-
cannot, no spoilers.
Vote today on the survey question, which asks, are staffing shortages in the hospitality industry temporary or permanent? Please, if you're not, register for the Smerconish.com daily newsletter and turn a friend onto the balance that we deliver daily.